I actually do have a little bit of authorization to say this, that on the way here today, I did get a phone call from Trump's lawyer, from Christina Bobb, and people have seen her all across the news lately that, that she's out there on this. And look, we both worked together at OAN in the past, so I don't think it's not a surprise to anybody that we know each other. And yes, we do still keep in contact. And one thing that she told me so she's there at the Mar-a-Lago raid. And she talked about this in some interviews already. But what I asked her, as I said, what did the FBI, how were they acting? Were they acting, if you got in their face, they were going to arrest you, or how are they? And the weirdest thing, and she said that I took it was so strange that she said they were acting as if we could keep the whole thing quiet if we were all just kind of cool about it. That they actually didn't think that Trump would tell people that he had been raided.
What?
And I said, why do you think they thought that? And she said, I think that they thought that he was worried he might be worried that it would make Trump look bad. And where I'm saying, how did they not understand that this makes you look bad when you're raiding him?
Or that this is Donald Trump.
And it's right.
The dude
have you ever met the guy?
Well,
yeah.
And they specifically timed the raid, I understand from some of the readings I did, that they timed it when Trump would not be there, because they wanted to keep it on the down low.
Right. And he's not usually there summer to begin with for this, because Mar-a-Lago is closed for the season. So they're on the skeleton crew right now. And when I talked to Christine, she said, look, I wasn't even there, when this whole thing started. And she, tore down when she heard what was going on, got in their faces to say, hey, what are you doing? What is all this? Can you explain what's going on? And they wouldn't tell her anything. And we've seen the search warrant, and it was, completely perfunctory. And we, of course, over at Human Events Daily, with the first outlet to, blah, 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 and all that.
So the DOJ is blocking the affidavit right now.
So the DOJ has said, now think about this. Merrick Garland came up 2 days later and said, we will let the information known to the American people. He said that at his press conference. And at the press conference, of course, though, his argument was basically that, hey, I'm the government, you can trust me. And then a couple days later, by the way, immediately after that, when he walked off the stage, that's when we got the leak about the nukes. So somebody pops that out right after he gets off stage about nuclear weapons, which is just immediately gone. There's been a bunch of rumors that have been flying since then. Is it about Ukraine? Is it about, the Iran deal? It's, whatever. And they're now fighting to keep the affidavit under seal, because they're saying that if the affidavit becomes out, it will injure their investigation. And you'd think that if he were trying to be serious about this, and Jonathan Turley had a piece up today, which I thought he was being a little squishy with it, but I agree with part of it, where he said, look, if this guy was trying to be fair, he'd at least say you can release parts of it.
Yeah.
That you could release something to just alleviate, like the pressure valve, just alleviate a little bit of the pressure, let off some of the pressure. Look, there were some documents. We were worried about the security of it. It had some. So Derek, for example, one of the theories that, myself and other, as a prior Navy intelligence officer, one of the theories that we had was, could he have PDBs, declassified copies of a PDB?
What's a PDB?
So Presidential's Daily Brief, President's Daily Brief. So a PDB, now he might have it because he wants a certain portion of it, but depending on the format it's in, you might have all sorts of CIA reporting in there, code word stuff, special access, who knows, right? You could have a ton of stuff in there that, would be better served if it were secured elsewhere, right? So, what kind of stuff would be in a PDB?
Well, it could be discussions about North Korean nuclear capabilities.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Or the discussions or the thinking of North Korea.
Which we only
Moscow.
have because maybe we have a source in Kim Jong-un's palace or inside the Kremlin. And if you read the report, you might know that because of the access, the only way someone could have this level of information, and, and Kim Jong-un over breakfast on Wednesday said
but
this.
The problem with that is on the PDBs is the PD books are controlled. They go in and they are returned and they're numbered.
Right.
So, but I really think that one of the things that they had down there were the Russia hoax documents from the CIA showing CIA and FBI culpability. There were numerous investigations. Director Radcliffe, former DNI director, Radcliffe has talked about this. I think that's probably one of the things that they would have had down there, because he ordered those to be declassified. The fact that DOJ did not go through with the process over there for further dissemination of these documents as declassified doesn't make those documents any less.
So you're talking about the underlying Spygate documents, the original documents that started the entire operation, that became Russiagate, that became the dossier, everything else. We're talking about the original electronic communications and everything else that was pulled during. And this, when you were in working with Nunes, you worked with Kash Patel and so many other, and the late great Rich Higgins, by the way.
For example, the investigation of what CIA was actually doing and the evidence that they looked at to come up with a conclusion that Russia wanted Trump to win in the 2016 election. There's tremendous documentation there that shows malfeasance and culpability. They cherry-picked information to get to a conclusion, and the overwhelming amount of evidence that pointed in another direction was put on the cutting room floor. That type of laydown is what Director Radcliffe had. It's damning of the Central Intelligence Agency and of the FBI.
You know for a fact that they had that information?
Yes.
Did you see it?
I worked on that project.
And then so they would have like on a thumb drive, just copies of the emails and stuff and all the.
No, it was all paper copies.
So, but that's weird to me that they would have like a paper copy of it and that's it. If it burns on fire, you never see it again. I mean, that's very Inspector Gadget.
No, we had it in a vault at the CIA headquarters. There are other copies. So, tremendous amount of work, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work by many people to go through all of the intelligence that was available to the Central Intelligence Agency that they neglected to include. And it was information that was not consistent with the narrative that John Brennan and the Director of National Intelligence, Clapper, wanted to portray to the president in the fall of 2016 about Russia wanting Trump to win.
How come Trump didn't fire everybody?
It's a good question. We brought in Dan Coates to be the Director of National Intelligence, and you wound up with the CIA Director, Pompeo. A lot of this evidence was provided to Director Pompeo and to the Deputy Director, Haspel, and they decided to do nothing with that information about what CIA had done to politicize their intelligence.
Hey, Derek, last time I checked, and maybe you can refresh my memory, who was the station chief? So a lot of this was done in London, right?
Correct.
So who was the CIA station chief? Now, any human operation that's conducted overseas must be signed off with the purview and authorization of the CIA station chief for that country. That's how it works. So whoever was working with Christopher Steele, whatever FBI, Bruce Orr and Nellie and all this stuff in the UK had to be signed off by the London station chief. Who was the London station chief during all this?
Gina Haspel, who became the deputy director of the CIA, who also decided not to do anything.
And then director of CIA, Gina Haspel.
So it's how all these people wind up still popping up. Peter Strzok's wife is leading the investigation for the Securities Exchange Commission about the Trump Media Group.
Wow.
Okay. How does Lisa Monaco wind up leading the investigation of Trump right now?
Deep state.
It's it's not even that deep anymore. It's the in-your-face state.
Yeah.
They don't care. They just don't care anymore.
Well, I think they're losing, and I think they know they're losing. And I'm not saying, I often talk about this country destabilizing. Trump said something terrible will happen unless we lower these temperatures. I think all that's true. But I think the reason the temperature is heating up is because the bureaucratic state, the administrative state, knows they are failing. They have lost cohesion, and they are going to be removed very quickly. Donald Trump was going to fire everybody. He's planning on running, and then immediately, the reporting is he's going to fire everybody once again, and I'd love to see it. I'm down for DeSantis or anybody else, but I'm kind of like, maybe the first thing we do is let's say you buy a new company, you come in, you clean house, you say, okay, this company's crooked, it's corrupt, these employees aren't working, but we got a good base here, so we're going to fire all these people, keep the good ones, very few of them, and then we're going to start rehiring and rebuilding this thing. I'd love to see
part of why there's tension is because there's this lack of vision by leadership in this country. There's maybe not no plan, but how often do you see someone in an established form of government come out and tell you about their excited plans for the future? and get people riled up to like, yes, we can change the world. We can start terraforming Earth. Like, but where's the real change proposals from Donald? I didn't see
What do you
much. Like, where's he talking about fusion, for the love of God, fusion power or space travel?
That's just something he's talked about space travel quite a bit.
A little bit.
He started Space Force.
He started Space Force, and he wants to go to Mars.
That's
he wants a base on
That's
the moon
good.
to bring us to Mars.
Could have done more on nuclear. Sure.
Yeah,
he
could have done more.
But okay, so maybe some
Agreed.
people are. What were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say that President Trump looked for new ideas, and he wanted to execute a reinvention of the Pentagon, taking a good look at how we do healthcare in this country. But when you have 4,000 political appointees and you don't get most of your people through the Senate or into the lower positions, and the ones that you are getting are people like Director Wray, the establishment provided him as, this guy's vetted, he's good, he's reliable. And look what we get when we get Director Wray. He's part of the Rhino class.
There you go.
When they were talking about climate change, and then I think Donald Trump was like, I never heard him be like, let's fix it. It was more like, that's not as big of a problem as you're making it out to be, kind of. I don't want to be too hard on Don because he had a big job. But I think we can fix the climate. So, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's what we need. I think we will de-escalate tensions when we start producing a modern myth that we can get behind, just like a modern story.
Put a pin on this, that the people that get me, though, are the ones who say, oh, well, Trump couldn't destroy defeat the entire establishment in one term. I guess that means he sucks now. We should just stop trying. I mean, really, if you actually think you're up against these all-powerful masters of the universe who have so much ability,
they stole his presidency
to control all of this. They took away his first 2.5 years,
just by
2.5, 3 years,
2.5 years, and then you get caught into COVID in the last year,
and then impeached him, and then COVID,
and even with all that, we had gas prices were dropping, the economy was booming. Imagine what he could have actually accomplished if he wasn't jammed up with Russiagate.
Right, and that's not cope. That's just what happened. Okay, that's what happened. And if you can't be adult enough to sit there and look at the situation objectively and say, yes, this was run against him, because Trump winning the White House was a beachhead. Okay, that was a beachhead that you established, but you're still surrounded in Washington, D.C. by the administrative state. And they came for him. They came into the White House. They came through the White House.
I remember there was a viral tweet from one of these lawyers that said, we are going to impeach you the day he was getting inaugurated.
Yes, right from the very beginning. So
remember
just
Schumer?
my own experience, I went in and took over the Middle East effort in the National Security Council for the president. They went after Mike Flynn and took Mike Flynn out. And Mike Flynn wanted to execute and move on the president's agenda for the Middle East. He wanted a new approach for the Middle East peace talks. He wanted to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He wanted his first trip overseas to be to Saudi Arabia and Israel. He wanted to get out of the Iran deal. Mattis and Tillerson and McMaster opposed him on all of those initiatives.
Deep state.
Derek, is it true that McMaster would essentially just go into him and fudge the numbers on Syria withdrawals and everything like that?
There was in meetings that I participated in, there was a mischaracterization provided to the president by Tillerson, Mattis, and McMaster. Wow. I was sitting on the love seat behind the view of the president could see me, and those three were sitting right in front of the Oval in the Oval Office in front of President Trump's desk. And I was right in the line of sight of the president, and they were telling him things, and I was shaking my head no. And the president would say, my guys are telling me there's another way of looking at this. My guys are telling me that there's new information on this. He would challenge General Mattis. They couldn't see me shaking my head, but he picked up on those signals correctly.
Wow.
But they were providing him wrong numbers, mischaracterizing what was actually going on, and trying to just bullshit him.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and we'll see you all there.